Hey, today you're going to be solving proportions. The first thing we're going to look at is making sure that our ratios are proportional so that they form a proportion. There's a couple ways to do this. One way is to take your first fraction, so we have 1/5, and we want it to get to equal 4/20 because that's our second fraction. So we need to figure out what number are we multiplying to get to this next number, and it needs to be the same. So 1 times what is going to give us 4? Well, that's obviously 4. 1 times 4 is 4. 5 times what is 20? 5 times 4 is 20. Since these numbers were both the same, we can say yes, they are proportional. Another way you could do that is to take 4 divided by 1, which is 4, and then 20 divided by 5, which is 4. We got the same number again. Even further than that, there's another way to do it, which we're going to be using when we solve proportions. If we have 1/5 and we need it to be equal to 4/20, you could cross multiply. 1 times 20 is 20. 5 times 4 is 20. They are equal. And then even another way, if we have 1/5, we need it to be equal to 4/20. Well, we can reduce 4/20 to 1/5. So they equal to the same thing. So there are many different ways. You can do it however you want to do it. So one way is to figure out what you're multiplying by to get to the second fraction. Another way is to just divide them. Make sure you divide by the same number. Another way is cross multiplying. And another way is to reduce them, see if that they're equal. I don't care which way you pick to do it. It is completely up to you. For the sake of time, I'm just going to do it this way each time. So I have 3/8. I want to multiply it by something to give me 12/32. So 3 times what is 12? Well, 3 times 4 is 12. 8 times what is 32? 8 times 4 is 32. We got the same number, so yes, those are proportional. Number 3, we have 4/5. We need it to be equal to 9/10. So 4 times what is 9? In other words, that's 9 divided by 4. That's 2.25. So if I did 4 times 2.25, I would get 9. And 5 times what is 10? 5 times 2 is 10. Here, they were different numbers, so we say no, they do not form a proportion. So again, just pick the way that you prefer. There are many different ways, so 1, 2, 3, 4 different ways at least to do it. So you decide what you want to do. The next problem, when we solve them, it is very similar. There are multiple ways to do it. For example, we know 8 times 6 is 48. So 6 times 6 should be 36. However, the way I'm going to show you how to do it is called cross multiply and divide. I prefer this way just in case if we ever have decimals that we need to deal with. It just makes it a little bit easier in my opinion. So I always start with my variable. So I cross multiply. So I multiply diagonally across. 8 times n is 8n. I'm going to put it equal to 6 times 48. So it makes a cross because we are multiplying those together. So I can simplify this. 8n is equal to 6 times 48 is 288. I then have a one-step equation. So to figure out what n is, I divide by 8 to get n equals 36, which is exactly what I predicted that I'd get. If you prefer to do just 8 times 6 is 48, so 6 times 6 is 36, that's fine. It is completely up to you. But like I said, I prefer seeing this way. It just makes it more set in stone because you can do this every single time without any issues. So I'm going to continue doing it that way. Number 2, multiply my variable diagonally across. 8 times m is 8m. Put it equal because there's an equal sign in between. 12 times 28. So we get 8m equals 12 times 28 is 336. To solve for m, we divide by 8 and we get m equals 42. So again, you could have predicted that by doing 28 divided by 8, get whatever you get, and take that number, multiply it by 12. So that is one way to do it. Number 3, I'm just going diagonally with my variable. 5 times b is 5b, equal to 30 times 4, which is 120. Then divide by 5 to get b equals 24. And again, you could have done, well, 30 divided by 6 is 5, so 4 times 6, that gives me 24. Number 4, and this is why I like to do it this way, because now you have two decimals. So 6 times n is 6n, equals 11.5 times 22.8. We get 6n is equal to, that's going to give me 262.2. The last step is to divide by 6 to get n equals 43.7. And you are allowed to use a calculator for these. So go ahead and get those calculators out if you haven't already. Number 5, 3 times x is 3x, is equal to 9.6 times 0.3. We get 3x equals 9.6 times 0.3 is 2.88. My last step is to divide by 3, get x equals 0.96. This is a very important skill to know. We will also be using them in the next chapter, so you want to remember how to solve these. We're going to be using them a lot. Number 6 says the classroom at Cascade Middle School are painted every summer. If 7 gallons of paint are needed to paint 4 classrooms, how many gallons of paint are needed to paint 16 classrooms? Well, what we're going to do is you can pick any number that you want. So let's just start with 7 gallons since that's the first number that they gave me. I'm going to put it over 4 classrooms since that's the next number they gave me. Put it equal to something. So I just started with 7 because that's the first number that they gave me. The next number they gave me was 4, so I put 4 down there. Now the next number I see is 16 classrooms. Now what's tricky is when we did converting measurements, your unit has to be diagonal. Here it needs to be completely across. The reason for that is because of this equal sign. We need this side to be equal to this side. So since I had classrooms down here, it means I need to keep classrooms down here. So I'm going to put 16 classrooms here. My x goes here. So when I solve it, I can think 4 times 4 is 16. So 7 times 4 is going to give me 28. My unit is going to be the same as what it was on top, so 28 gallons. So again, just put it in order of how they gave it to you. So 7 was first, write it first. 4 was second, write it second. And then you just line up your measurements so that they're completely left to right. We are not going diagonal here. So class goes with class, gallons with gallons. Number 7, a principal is ordering pizzas for a school pizza party. He knows that 9 pizzas will feed 25 students. If there are 300 students in the school, how many pizzas will he need to order? So the first number they gave me was 9 pizzas, so I'm going to write that down. I'm just going to use P for pizzas. And then it's going to feed 25 students. That was the next number, so I'm going to write that next. Use S for students. Put it equal to, the next number they gave me was 300 students. Since it was students, I had students on the bottom, it's going to stay on the bottom. So 300 students goes bottom, X goes on top, because that's the number I don't know. I don't know how many pizzas it's going to be. So I can just do 25 times whatever's 300. But I'm just going to do the cross multiplying so we get a little more used to it. 25 students times X is 25X. 9 pizzas times 300 students is going to give me 2,700. Divided by 25, we get x equals 108 pizzas. Okay, so main thing with story problems, write your first number first, second number second, and then line up your units. So whatever unit you put on top needs to stay on top. Whatever unit you put on bottom needs to stay on bottom. The first fraction doesn't matter too much. I just like to go in order of how they put it. If you have any questions about this or your homework, please feel free to email me and I will respond as quickly as I